Hello, my loves. This is going to be a short mini energy update just to kind of bring in some remembrance of the main July update, but also to kind of do a little bit more in depth of this particular time period of what's happening. And I just did like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago in the YouTube membership. I went real deep into this and shared my personal experience and all of that. So if you're a member, it's in there. Go check that out. But I was going to share that video publicly, and I decided, my guides were like, so I decided to just pop on and do a quick mini update just to kind of give you some insights into this particular time period. Now, the July update still stands. It's very in depth, but I want to just do a little bit deeper in this particular area. So yesterday afternoon, the portal into the full moon Capricorn opened. I don't know about you, but yesterday was a very challenging day. I was using my tools every freaking minute of that day. I was utilizing and moving through the flames. But I want to talk about this a little bit because this is very important. In the July update, I talked about how, all of this high photonic light that's been coming in has kind of been a fog, right? We've been sitting in. And what happens is that fog begins to expand and dissipate. So as this photonic light, this high frequency energy, it's not a temporary thing. This is a new sustained level. It means the amount of information we are processing per hour. Go back and watch July's update if you don't know what I'm talking about. I do share a little bit more about that there. But this energy is beginning to expand. It's beginning to expand in us. And so we are going through, remember we talked about this, we had the point of no return in May, and in June we had the waterfall of high frequency come in, and that was that fog coming in, that awareness coming in. Some people weren't taking it in, it was just coming all around them. Some people were taking it in, but they were attaching to it, they weren't working with it, they weren't integrating it. And whether you want to or not, you're going to be forced to have to learn how to allow these new frequencies into your being, to become you, to integrate them. This is never, ever, this month we've never experienced this level of, this is when you need to know how to integrate, true integration. It's like why I had to put Solvation out when I did, for those who wanted to learn how to do this from me. But this is the time when we have to integrate these energies. We have to allow them not only to come into us so that we can understand them, but for them to change our behavior, to change the way we think, feel, walk, breathe, speak, everything. True integration is changed behavior. It is taking knowledge and turning it into wisdom because you've utilized it, you've put that knowledge in play. So that moon opened yesterday, and we really start to feel that intensity, right? Capricorn is an earth sign. This is going to affect us tangibly, our bodies, our physical bodies, our health. It can affect tangible things, our home, our cars, our relationships, everything that is tangible in this existence, including us. And it's not comfortable energy. This is very uncomfortable energy. It's very chaotic. It's very disruptive. It's big change. If you look at it from astrological perspectives, it is conjunct Pluto, which is our transformer. It is trine Uranus, which is the great expander, the awakener. It's going to take you to new depths inside of you. And it's square Chiron, which is our wounded healer, our deepest wound. So what are we doing collectively? What we started doing in the beginning of July that I told everybody we were going to be doing, we're going headfirst into the depths of our collective core wound, which is repression. Which means that individually, we're all going headfirst, layer by layer, into the deep of our repressed energy. Remember, the mind, the obsessive mind, always replays what we repressed in our being. So we're going into the depths of our deepest wounds collectively. And that means individually. And that's not comfortable. And so this is going to bring great change. It's going to blow things up. It's going to detonate things in your life that aren't serving you. I know for me, I'm in a shitstorm right now in my personal life. Obviously, those who follow me read my post today. If you're in my membership on YouTube, you heard me talk about other things today. You're not going through it alone. We're all going through it at some level. So maybe something in your life blows up. Maybe it's your life that blows up. Maybe nothing blows up, but you have like now this deeper level of awakening in you and this deeper clarity of of consciousness. The understanding, the aha is there. But on the flip side of that, it's super highly intuitive. The downloads and the information, the ahas, the light bulbs, the guidance that you've been asking for, the clarity you've been seeking is going to come in. It came in for me last night. That's what I shared also in my membership today. But it's not to be played with now. That's the important piece. So those ahas, those come in, the answers that you've been seeking, the downloads, it's not to be used now. You will actually be using it at the end of the month. And as I mentioned in one of my other posts somewhere else, the very end of July, like 3-4 last days of July and the first few days of August are going to be a doozy. You think what we're going through now is intense, just wait. So as I've mentioned several times, this is only evolving and progressing forward. There is no more going back. You can't undo what's being done right now. You have to learn to work with it. You have to use tools that are simple and adaptable that you can put into play in your everyday life and start to integrate. Otherwise, you're just going to be on this hamster wheel. Because what happens is, especially when we start to physically feel it in our body or in our life, we want to hold it at bay. We want to repress it. We want to be like, we want to resist. We medicate, we distract, we blame, we do all those things. But when we're trying to hold it at bay, we're resisting. All we're doing, think of a dam. All we're doing in that moment is sitting in it and intensifying it, letting it go around and around and around and around. And this is what we have been doing collectively for centuries. And tomorrow on my podcast, I'm going to be talking about my experience with ayahuasca recently and what I started to clear for the collective and for myself that will explain that even more. It was insane and super intense. That medicine is not for the faint of heart. So when you get the downloads, when you get the ahas, when you get the clarity that you've been asking for, sit with it, journal on it. Something is going to happen at the end of the month that will allow you to utilize that information or that knowing. Okay? Something that is going to be super important for you because this energy is going to be one of overthinking, overanalyzing. You might let your emotions get the best of you. It's important to remember these things, right? You are not your thoughts. You are the one witnessing your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the one witnessing your emotions. Because at the deepest rooted understanding of reality, reality is created by the observer. You are the reader and the writer, or the writer and the reader, however you want to say it. You are both. The same way every person you meet, whether it's a client, a random person at the grocery store, a relative, a neighbor, every person you meet is you, but is also not you. Any interaction you have with anybody is for a reason. It's by design, whether it's 2 seconds or a lifetime. Everything in your life is a mirror. It's showing you. It's showing you exactly what you need. The square with Chiron, when you have a square, it's an excess of something that was already seated. Well, if we're having an excess experience of our deepest wound, we're each going into that depth. And it's being blown up for us, whether it's just the light shining on it like it's never been shined on it before, or it's actually being detonated and blown up. so that we can take our transformer, our tools to transform, and start to walk foot in front of another through the flames, getting through the other side of this. So what you do behind closed doors when nobody's watching and nobody's listening is what is either contributing to the detriment of our collective or evolving us forward to where we need to go. A lot of times people act completely different behind closed doors. They numb, they medicate, they don't do the work. They complain. They talk about other people, whatever it is. But what you're doing behind closed doors when no one's watching and no one's listening and you don't think you're accountable, that is actually when you are most accountable and what you're most contributing to the collective. So what needs to change in your life? Where do you need to do the work? Where do you need to sit with this? Where do you need to change your behavior, your habits, your thoughts, the way that you process, to do the work to move not just us individually forward, but to contribute, because we are each a part of that collective. You don't like what you see in the world, look in the mirror and change yourself. That is how it works, because we are all a part of it. And I invite you to join my podcast tomorrow, because you're really going to understand what I have channeled many times. I actually got to experience tangibly. It was a very wild ride. So something I did yesterday was I had a new mantra. I embrace the discomfort. Literally, I was sitting on the couch doing this because I could feel it physically in my body. My body, we can't make our bodies do anything. And my body was wanting to hold this. And I was like, we don't have to hold this. We don't have to sit in this. We don't have to keep this feeling. So I just put my hands on my chest and I just kept saying, I embrace the discomfort. I embrace the discomfort. I used the purification process that I share in my book, and I've shared other places in a lot of my courses. I used my own processes. I used my simple adaptable tools, and I had to use them all effing day, because some days that's how it is. And there was no reason, nothing actually happened yesterday to trigger it. It just came up. And as soon as I felt the shift, when that moon portal opened, I always feel it. So 3 days before the peak of the moon and 3 days after, it's like a 6-7 day window when that is super intense. But we've already had this activation of going in deep. That's what we were experiencing at the end of June going into July that I talked about in the July update. And we've already seen the domino effect of that happening in the collective. Between, we have a lot of the elite things are burning down, are being blown up. People are resigning. People are being taken out. The domino effect of the elite crumbling is happening right in front of us. And it's just going to go deeper and expose more and more truth. This is a delayering. If we saw all of the truth all at once, and I can tell you from experience, it's too much for your physical brain. Your human ego is a limitation. The ego mind is limited. More than, I always knew it was limited, but after my experience, I can tell you it is limited way far beyond what we actually think it is. So we have to let go of the ego's limitation and the human limitation. You got to be in it. You got to observe the thoughts, let them go by like clouds in the sky, is what Metatron always tells me. Same with your energy, right? You got to let that energy move when you feel it, right? The first part of the purification process, I see you. That is responsibility. I take responsibility for what is happening and I call it out for what it is. I'm stressing, I'm making something bigger than it is. I'm holding on, I'm in survival mode, whatever it is, it's calling it out for what it really is, not what we want to claim it to be. Because this energy isn't happening to us. It's not the cause. It's just the alignment, right? It's just the stop sign that says, now we're going to stop here and we're going to allow this to happen so that we can move forward again. It's just astrology, like time, is a marker for experience. That's it. It's just a marker for experience, an experience that you need to have. So if you're going through something right now, if you're going through it, it's happening for you. It's happening for you. So this energy is super, super, super intense, and it's going to be, but this is just another activation that is going to push us further deeper into that collective wound. And then when we get to the end of July, right, after we pass right about the galactic New Year point, July 26th, from that moment till probably August 4th, maybe a little earlier or later, depending on how collectively we do, it's gonna be a wild ride. So there is no more time in a world that time doesn't really exist in to get this. You've got to figure it out. You have got to do the work to integrate. It is pivotal, or it's just going to create more suffering. And there's no easy way to say that. It's just what it is. It's not fear-based. It's just truth. It's just perspective. It's important for us to understand that we are embodying, crystallizing things that have been fossilized in density in our body for generations and generations and generations. We are breaking out of this cycle of repression that we have been in. And that wheel is really, really big. And our body is a lot, especially anyone born before 1990, especially before 2000. We are the most dense. Ascension is the process of going from density to crystalline, from a dense being to a crystalline being. And that density is represented when you think of a fossil, of patterns and programs and science and crap that we have been programmed is just etched in. And that has to continuously be broken up and blown up. And the wisdom that remains is the crystalline energy. So think about it. If you had a regret and you could do it again, even though you can't, right? The past cannot be changed. There's no hope that it will be any different. But if you could, what would you do differently? That is the wisdom. And that wisdom has to be put in play. You have to begin to operate from that wisdom. Otherwise, it's just knowledge. It's just awareness. And that's the problem that I talked about in July. We have all these people learning more, but they're not putting it in play. They're not integrating it. They're not changing their behavior with it. And so the more you may expand your awareness, but you're not going into your body and you're not changing the body, that is a disharmony, because the body and the mind and the energy all have to be in coherence. That's what creates harmony in our life. That's why we have to integrate aspects of ourselves and these wounds and do things differently. So this is going to be happening for us. And over the next 6-7 days, starting really yesterday, have the most grace you've ever had for yourself and the most compassion. When you find yourself resisting, when you find yourself struggling, call it out. Call it out. Say it. And then breathe. And take your time. Don't try to fix it. When we truly let go, we don't try to fix it. We don't try to course correct it. We don't try to make it better. We accept it for what it is. We hold space. We don't need another perspective. We don't need it to be fixed. You don't need something to save you. You need to accept it for what it is, and you need to feel it. You need to witness it. And you need to love yourself through it as if you have the damn flu and you have no choice but to go through it. Treat yourself like you're sick and love yourself through it. And whether it's with me, someone else, on your own, I don't really care. Save yourself the turmoil of continuous chaos and repeat of pain and suffering, and learn to integrate this energy. It's not going to be easy because we are taking high frequency, high levels of awareness, knowledge of things that no human has held before, and we're bringing it into our bodies, and it's like learning to walk and talk again. It's like learning to live in a society that's different. You are the true black sheep, because the majority is still not knowing what the hell's happening. So as you begin to integrate this is when you truly become quantum. And this is when you truly have to learn how to walk and talk differently and own it like you have never owned it before. Nobody else has to make sense of it. Nobody else has to agree with you. You just have to do what's best for you and operate in the knowing and truth that is you. Because when you come from the soul's perspective, when you finally come from that grander sense of self, what you will realize is that everything is perspective. There is no hard right or wrong. So you have to figure this out for you. And again, this intensity doesn't necessarily mean that your life's going to blow up or that your car is going to blow up, like in my case, or your house or your relationship. It just may be a blown up awareness. But again, that awareness, that knowledge is useless unless you integrate it into change behavior. So you're going to have to do physical things in addition to your mental and emotional practices to bring you back into that harmony space. It has to be about all three. We can't do one at a time anymore. It has to be all three, or there's disharmony. So I just wanted to come on and give this quick little update because I know I felt very guided to just do a quick short one and not give all that I did in the members update that I did a couple hours ago. So I hope this helps you have some understanding of what's going on. And I hope that you will join me tomorrow for another podcast episode where I will be sharing my ayahuasca experience. And you guys can do this. We can do it. But you got to start looking really hard and be very truthful about what you're really doing and how you're walking, even when nobody's looking. It's time to take a whole nother level of responsibility and ownership for our contribution to the whole. All right. My podcast is called As the Soul Turns. I usually broadcast it live on Facebook and YouTube, and then it gets put up on the podcast platforms. So it's on Apple and it's on Spotify as well if you just want to hear the audio version. But I do record them live on YouTube and Facebook. So it's As the Soul Turns. And I'm not sure what time I'm going to go live tomorrow because I have a client schedule, but I will pop on at some point and share my journey. So in the words of Elsa, just let it go. I love you guys. Thanks for hopping on.